I bet most people are raised on the belief that love should be effortless, that when you meet the right person, everything falls into place as if the universe finally clicks into alignment. Movies, books, it back, and even social media feed us this idea that real love is instant, intuitive, and easy. We're told that when you find your soulmate, communication just flows, you never fight, and everything feels endlessly exciting. But that story is a comforting illusion, not a reflection of reality. The truth is that genuine connection often starts awkwardly, develops slowly, and requires consistent effort to sustain. Love isn't the absence of struggle, it's the willingness to keep showing up despite it. Yet so many people walk away the moment things get hard, mistaking effort for incompatibility. The myth that love should be easy has made people quit on relationships that were perfectly capable of growing into something extraordinary. What they don't realize is that love is not discovered. It's developed through conscious work. When you believe in effortless love, you expect alignment without investment. You imagine that chemistry will do the heavy lifting and that emotional connection will stay vibrant on its own. But even chemistry fades without care. Even attraction erodes without attention. The myth of soulmates sets an unrealistic baseline for relationships. It tells people that friction means failure. In truth, friction is feedback, and feedback is how two individuals learn to blend their worlds. Every meaningful bond comes with misunderstandings, insecurities, and moments of frustration. These are not signs that you've chosen the wrong person. They're signs that you're finally moving beyond fantasy into reality. Real intimacy begins when the performance ends, when people stop trying to impress and start trying to understand. The work of love starts right where the illusion of perfection ends. And those who learn to embrace that discomfort often end up with deeper, stronger partnerships than those who run toward the next perfect connection. There's a dangerous entitlement hidden inside the soulmate myth. It tells people that if they have to try, it must not be right. That mindset turns effort into evidence of failure. Imagine applying that logic to anything else worth having: your career, your health, your personal growth. We don't abandon the gym because the weights are heavy. We know progress requires resistance. Yet, when it comes to love, people treat resistance as rejection instead of refinement. Relationships are the most advanced form of emotional training you'll ever do. They push you to confront your ego, to learn patience, to build empathy. They teach you how to manage conflict without collapsing. None of that feels effortless, but all of it is essential. Expecting ease is like expecting fluency in a language you've never learned. You don't speak someone's emotional language without practice, and you don't develop emotional fluency by accident. It takes time, humility, and repetition to become fluent in love. The soulmate myth also fuels the fear of settling. People think that if love requires work, they must be compromising their standards. But there's a difference between settling for less and building something more. Building requires imperfection because growth only happens when two people bring their flaws to the table. The danger is that people chase a fantasy version of love, one that always feels right instead of one that becomes right through effort. They keep searching for that perfect person who eliminates their discomfort. Rather than learning how to regulate their own emotions within a partnership, the healthiest relationships are not between people who never argue, but between people who argue well. They know how to disagree without disrespect, how to repair without resentment. That kind of dynamic doesn't happen magically. It's a skill set built through conscious repetition. And once you develop it, it transforms every future relationship you'll ever have. When people buy into the soulmate narrative, they often mistake infatuation for alignment. But infatuation feels effortless because it doesn't require responsibility. It's driven by novelty and hormones. You're high on possibility, not reality. But eventually, the initial excitement fades, and that's when the real test begins. Most people interpret that shift as the end of love, when in fact it's the beginning of partnership. The first phase of love is emotional intoxication. The second is emotional education. It's when you start to learn who your partner truly is, what triggers them, what comforts them, and how they process the world. If you can stay through that transition, you discover something far more fulfilling than infatuation: trust. Trust doesn't come from perfection. It comes from repetition, showing up again and again when it would be easier not to. Take it back. The couples who last are not the ones who never struggle, but the ones who keep choosing each other through struggle. There's also an emotional laziness that hides beneath the soulmate myth. People want love to be effortless because they want certainty without vulnerability. They want guarantees without the risk of loss. But love, by its very nature, demands exposure. You can't experience deep connection without giving someone the power to hurt you. And you can't build something real if you're always prepared to run. The expectation of a flawless bond keeps people shallow, stuck in the honeymoon phase of multiple relationships instead of growing roots in one. It's easier to chase the thrill of newness than to face the discomfort of growth. But growth is where fulfillment lives. It's where respect, admiration, and emotional safety are born. The myth that love should be easy isn't just wrong, it's emotionally self-sabotaging. It keeps people cycling through partners, always searching for magic instead of learning mastery. Think about how many people have walked away from something real because it didn't feel meant to be. That phrase, meant to be. Sounds romantic, but it's actually a form of emotional avoidance. It allows people to escape the responsibility of effort by blaming destiny. If the relationship failed, it's because fate said so back, not because they quit too early. But relationships aren't dictated by fate. They're directed by choice. Every day you decide to nurture or neglect, to invest or withdraw. Love is not something that happens to you back. It's something you have practice. And like any practice, it gets better the more intentional you become. The people who experience the deepest love are the ones who treat it like a craft, refining it over years, back, not moments. They understand that falling in love is easy, but staying in love is a skill. The soulmate myth also creates unrealistic and emotional expectations. Back. It convinces people that love should meet all their needs, emotional, spiritual, intellectual. But no one person can be everything to you. Expecting that is like asking a single meal to sustain you for life. Back. Healthy love requires diversity in connection, friends, purpose, hobbies, and self-fulfillment. When you stop depending on your partner to complete you, you start relating from abundance instead of lack. That you stop trying to extract happiness and start sharing it. And that shift changes everything. It turns love from dependency into collaboration. It makes you a better partner because you're no longer operating from fear. You don't need to cling, control, or constantly seek reassurance. You can give love freely because you're not desperate to receive it back. When love feels hard, most people assume it's broken. But difficulty isn't a defect, it's data. It's the feedback loop that helps you understand how to love better. Every argument, every misunderstanding is an opportunity to strengthen your communication, your boundaries, your self-awareness. The people who master love don't avoid conflict. They navigate it consciously. They listen to understand, not to win. They don't look for someone who never hurts them it back. They look for someone who's willing to repair. That's what mature love looks like, two people who know how to mend what breaks. It's not poetic or cinematic, but it's powerful because it's real. Back. It's built on mutual accountability, not fantasy. And that's what sustains relationships long after the spark fades. At its core, back. The myth that love should be effortless is comforting because it removes accountability. It lets people believe that happiness depends on finding the right person instead of becoming the right partner. Back. But the truth is that love is a mirror. It reflects who you are, not just who you're with. If you want better love, you have to build better habits, better communication, better self-control, better empathy. It back. Those qualities don't show up because fate delivered your soulmate. They show up because you chose to cultivate them. When people stop chasing effortless perfection and start embracing intentional effort, back, they stop chasing the one and start building the relationship. And that shift from fantasy to responsibility is where real connection begins. Back. Compatibility is one of the most misunderstood concepts in relationships. People often talk about it as if it's some mysterious formula that either exists or doesn't. They believe that two people are either made for each other or they're not, as if some divine hand wrote it in the stars long before they met. But compatibility isn't cosmic, it's constructed. It back. It's not found in the first conversation or the initial spark. It's built in the choices that follow. When you meet someone new, what you're really meeting is potential, not perfection. It back. The early chemistry feels electric because it's fueled by novelty and projection. You're seeing what you want to see. But as that fades, what's left is an opportunity to create something real through shared growth. Compatibility is less about alignment in every detail and more about willingness to align when it matters most. It's a process of negotiation, understanding, and emotional engineering. The dangerous part about believing in the soulmate myth is that it convinces people that alignment should be instant. When it isn't, they assume it's not meant to be back, so they move on to find someone else who just gets them. But no one will just get you, at least not at first. People are entire worlds filled with different histories, traumas, and communication patterns. Back. You don't learn a person in a few weeks of talking, you learn them through seasons of effort. Real compatibility comes from the willingness to study your partner, to understand what drives them, scares them, it back, motivates them. It's not about finishing each other's sentences. It's about being curious enough to keep asking questions. The people who stay in love are the ones who remain students of each other. Think back. They don't assume understanding, they earn it through patience. That's the real foundation of compatibility. Consistent curiosity over complacent certainty. If you think about it, back. Every long-lasting relationship is a partnership between two builders, not two dreamers. Builders understand that alignment requires intentional design. They know that shared goals are not discovered, they are defined. In business, we accept that partnerships only work when both parties invest in communication, strategy, and compromise. Yet in love, we expect it to flow without structure. Leila Hormozi often draws this parallel back. Success in business and success in relationships come from the same principles: clarity, communication, and consistency. You can't build a thriving company with someone who doesn't share your values back, and the same applies to love. But values aren't always identical at first. They evolve through collaboration. Compatibility grows when two people commit to growth as individuals and as a unit. I trust myself to take it back. It's about aligning your trajectories, not forcing sameness. Two people don't have to be identical to work. They just need to be moving in the same direction. The illusion of instant compatibility keeps people shallow. They become addicted to ease, mistaking comfort for connection. Back, but relationships that feel effortless at the beginning often crumble under pressure because they were never tested. Compatibility isn't measured in moments of harmony. It's revealed in moments of conflict. Back, it's how two people handle disagreement that defines their potential. Do they shut down, attack, or avoid? Or do they pause, reflect, and repair? Real compatibility is the ability to work through friction without destroying the bond. It's not about avoiding problems, but solving them together. Back. Every strong couple has gone through rough patches that forced them to relearn each other. They didn't run when things got hard, they rebuilt. That rebuilding process is where compatibility becomes unshakable. Back. Because once you've fought for each other and not against each other, you've built something stronger than chemistry. You've built trust. Most people think compatibility is about having similar interests or personalities, but that's surface level. You can share hobbies, music tastes, back, and humor with someone, still be fundamentally incompatible in deeper values. True alignment happens in how you view responsibility, growth, honesty, and respect. It's in how you handle failure, how you treat others, how you process pain. Compatibility is about how your emotional systems interact when things go wrong. Do you withdraw while your partner seeks connection? Do you both deflect blame, or do you own your parts? Back. The answers to those questions determine whether you build intimacy or resentment. You don't discover those answers by chance. You discover them by going through real experiences together. Back. That's why long-term compatibility can't be predicted from early chemistry. It has to be earned through time and shared resilience. What people call growing apart often just means they stop growing together. Another hidden truth about compatibility is that it demands self-awareness. You can't align with someone else if you don't know who you are. People chase soulmates because they want someone else to complete them. Back, not realizing they're entering relationships from a place of lack. When you don't understand your own needs, boundaries, and triggers, you can't communicate them clearly. That lack of clarity turns potential compatibility into chaos. The most compatible relationships are built by people who take full responsibility for their emotions. They don't expect their partner to read their mind or fix their wounds. They come to the table whole enough to collaborate instead of compete. Compatibility doesn't require perfection. It requires accountability. When two self-aware people come together, they create a space where differences become opportunities instead of obstacles. They can have hard conversations without collapsing back because their emotional maturity stabilizes the relationship even when emotions run high. It's also important to understand that compatibility changes as you do back. The person you were 5 years ago might not align with the person you are now. That doesn't mean your partner is wrong for you. It means both of you must adapt. Relationships fail when people expect static compatibility in a dynamic world. Life shifts, careers evolve, priorities change, new stressors emerge. Back. The couples who last are those who update their connection as life changes. They communicate through transitions instead of assuming the old dynamic will survive the new season. Take it back. Compatibility isn't a one-time achievement, it's a continual adjustment. It's not about always agreeing, it's about always aligning. You recalibrate, renegotiate, and re-choose each other through every stage. Back. That's how relationships stay alive through conscious evolution. The danger of the soulmate myth is that it makes people believe love should remain the same forever, when in truth, love that grows must also transform. Back. People often confuse comfort with compatibility because comfort feels safe. But sometimes comfort just means you've stopped growing. True compatibility includes challenge. It pushes you to evolve back, to expand beyond your habits. The right partner doesn't just make you feel understood, they make you feel inspired to become better. They hold you accountable to your potential, not just your preferences. Get back. That's why lasting relationships aren't always peaceful. Sometimes they're productively uncomfortable. They make you confront the parts of yourself that resist change. Back. But if you're both willing to face that discomfort, you become more aligned than ever before. Compatibility is not about finding someone who never triggers you back. It's about finding someone who helps you heal the triggers you have. It's a mutual growth process that strengthens both individuals, not just the relationship itself. That's the deeper, back, more sustainable form of connection that the soulmate myth never talks about. When people chase instant compatibility, they often confuse emotional intensity with emotional safety. That spark, that rush back feels intoxicating, but it's often born from familiarity with chaos rather than actual connection. Sometimes what feels like destiny is just a repetition of old patterns disguised as passion. Real compatibility, back, on the other hand, often feels calm. It's the quiet confidence that you can be yourself without performance. It's not fireworks, it's foundation. But because it doesn't trigger the same adrenaline rush, people mistake it for boredom. They crave drama because it feels alive, not realizing that peace is the real indicator of alignment. When you meet someone and feel safe enough to grow instead of guarded, back. That's compatibility in its highest form. It doesn't come with a script or a spark, it comes with consistency. It's less cinematic but far more sustainable. And once you experience that level of connection, you stop chasing intensity and start valuing stability. Compatibility then isn't luck, it's leadership. It's two people taking charge of how they love, communicate, and collaborate. You don't stumble upon alignment, you create it through repeated effort, empathy, and emotional discipline. Every act of listening, every repair after conflict, it back. Every moment of shared vulnerability becomes a brick in the structure you're building together. Over time, that structure becomes so strong that even life's storms can easily shake it. The soulmate myth tries to convince you that the right person makes love easy. But the truth is, the right partnership makes love arv worth it. And when you build compatibility deliberately, with intention, humility, and consistency, you don't just find someone who fits into your life, you build a life that fits both of you. The idea that someone out there is your missing half is one of the most seductive lies ever told about love. It sounds poetic, but it's rooted in emotional dependency rather than strength. The moment you believe you need another person to complete you, you surrender your power. You begin to see yourself as partial, as lacking, as waiting to be rescued from incompleteness. That belief makes you chase validation instead of growth, approval instead of alignment. It's a mindset that turns love into a form of emotional survival rather than conscious choice. You start to define your worth based on how much attention or affection you receive. Instead of becoming a whole person who chooses love freely, you become someone desperate for connection to feel significant. And that desperation can make you settle for comfort over compatibility, illusion over intimacy, and fantasy over reality. When you view another person as your missing piece, you unconsciously give them authority over your happiness. Their presence or absence determines how you feel about yourself, which is an incredibly unstable foundation for love. Relationships built on dependency feel thrilling at first because they create the illusion of wholeness. But eventually that illusion fades, and what's left is fear. The fear of losing the person who sustains your identity. You start to compromise too much, tolerate too little, and internalize rejection as proof that you're not enough. Instead of two complete individuals choosing each other, the relationship becomes a dynamic of need and reassurance. The irony is that the more you rely on someone to complete you, the more you repel the connection you crave. True intimacy requires autonomy. When you learn to stand fully in who you are, you invite a love that's rooted in choice, not in need. The soulmate myth sells people on the fantasy that love will heal their loneliness. It whispers that once you find the one, everything inside you that feels broken will suddenly make sense. But loneliness isn't cured by proximity, it's cured by self-connection. No one can fill the space you've abandoned within yourself. When you expect someone to, you turn them into a therapist, a savior, or a solution, which is unfair to both of you. The healthiest love comes from people who have already built a relationship with themselves. They've learned how to self-soothe, how to find meaning outside of romance, and how to nurture their own sense of identity. When they enter a relationship, they're not looking to be completed, they're looking to be complemented. They bring their own piece to the table instead of demanding it from someone else. And that's what creates balance, two whole people contributing to each other's growth, not completing each other's gaps. That when people see themselves as incomplete, they often confuse attachment with love. Attachment is fear-driven. It's about holding on tightly because you believe you can't survive without the other person. Love, on the other hand, is freedom-driven. It allows space for individuality and expression. The soulmate myth turns relationships into emotional insurance policies. People cling to them to avoid facing their own insecurities. That's why so many relationships become cycles of dependency and disappointment. One person plays the role of caretaker while the other plays the role of dependent, and both end up frustrated. They mistake intensity for intimacy because chaos feels like passion. But love that depends on fear of loss isn't love. It's control wrapped in romance. It's not partnership, it's survival. The truth is, you can't build genuine love from a foundation of fear. You have to first learn how to be complete on your own so your love comes from abundance, not emptiness. The missing half narrative also prevents people from developing emotional independence. When you rely too heavily on someone else for stability, you stop exercising your own emotional muscles. You outsource your peace to another human being, which means every argument, distance, or disagreement becomes a threat to your entire sense of self. That's why people panic when their partner pulls away even slightly. It's not just rejection, it feels like identity collapse. But if you've done the work to know who you are without anyone else's validation, you don't shatter when relationships get tested. You can communicate from composure instead of panic, from clarity instead of fear. Independence doesn't mean detachment. It means you bring your full, grounded self to the connection. And ironically, that kind of strength makes relationships far more fulfilling. Because when both people are secure in themselves, love becomes a choice made from desire, not from desperation. When you internalize the soulmate myth, you start believing that love is about being found rather than being formed. You wait for someone to discover your worth instead of cultivating it yourself. You imagine a future where someone finally sees you, understands you, and gives you what you've been missing. But that fantasy puts your happiness perpetually out of reach. The truth is, no one is coming to save you, because you were never lost. The parts of you that crave validation aren't proof that you're incomplete, they're reminders of where you need to heal. When you stop outsourcing the healing to others, you reclaim your autonomy. You stop chasing people who can't give you what you need because you finally give it to yourself. And when you operate from that self-sufficient place, the relationships you attract transform. You stop looking for saviors and start looking for equals, partners who enhance your life, not define it. Many people fear that if they stop believing in soulmates, they'll lose the magic of love. But the opposite is true. Love becomes even more powerful when it's chosen consciously rather than ordained by fate. The idea of missing half suggests that love is accidental, something you stumble upon when the stars align. But real love is deliberate. It's the act of seeing someone clearly with all their imperfections and choosing to build something real anyway. When you remove the pressure of predestined perfection, you make space for growth, for learning, for genuine connection. You stop comparing your relationship to some idealized fantasy and start appreciating the beauty of what's actually in front of you. And that kind of love, grounded in effort and mutual respect, has a depth that destiny could never replicate. It's not about finding your other half. It's about choosing your equal. The missing half mindset also traps people in toxic relationships because it convinces them that walking away means losing part of themselves. They tell themselves, I can't live without them, when what they really mean is, I don't know who I am without them. That's not love. It's dependency disguised as devotion. It's why so many people stay in relationships that drain them, rationalizing pain as proof of passion. But staying in something that diminishes you doesn't make you loyal, it makes you lost. When you build your identity around another person, you forget that you existed before them and will exist after them. Learning to stand alone isn't a rejection of love. It's a prerequisite for it. Because until you can live without someone, you'll never be able to love them freely. True connection only thrives between two people who know they don't need each other to survive, but still choose to stay. The belief that someone else completes you also limits your potential. When you see another person as your source of happiness, you stop pursuing your own growth. You become complacent, thinking the relationship is the destination rather than part of your journey. But the best relationships are built between people who continue to evolve individually. They challenge each other to pursue purpose, not just partnership. When you both keep growing, the relationship stays alive because it's fueled by inspiration instead of stagnation. You can love someone deeply without losing your individuality. In fact, individuality is what keeps the connection vibrant. It keeps curiosity alive. When two whole people come together, their love becomes an exchange of energy, not an extraction of it. Each person brings fullness to the relationship, creating something expansive and empowering rather than confining. That's what happens when you stop searching for completion and start creating connection. The dangerous part of the soulmate myth is that it confuses dependency for destiny. It tells you that your happiness lives in someone else's hands, when in truth, it's been in yours all along. You don't need to be completed because you were never broken. You've just been conditioned to believe you were. Once you understand that, you start approaching love differently. You stop asking, who will complete me? And start asking, who can I grow with? You no longer look for someone to fix your loneliness. You look for someone to share your wholeness. You stop performing to be loved and start showing up authentically. And from that authenticity, real intimacy can finally emerge because it's built between two people who are already whole, already enough, and already complete within themselves. We love the soulmate story because it makes love feel like destiny instead of discipline. It tells us that the universe will send the right person at the right time, and that when they arrive, everything will just work. That's comforting, but it's also disempowering. It allows people to avoid accountability by blaming timing or fate. When love doesn't last, they say it wasn't meant to be, instead of asking what choices they made or didn't make to sustain it. The truth is that lasting relationships aren't built by luck or alignment of stars. They're built by consistent, deliberate action. They're the result of two people choosing to show up again and again, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unclear. Love is not found, it's built. It's not a single yes, but 1,000 small yeses repeated daily. The people who understand this treat love not as magic, but as mastery. Real love begins where fantasy ends. It's easy to love someone when everything feels light and exciting, when there's novelty, validation, and effortless chemistry. But eventually, every relationship reaches a point where it stops being new and starts being real. That's when small annoyances appear, miscommunications happen, and habits clash. Many people interpret that shift as falling out of love, but it's actually the first invitation to deepen it, because love that's never tested remains theoretical. It exists only in ideal conditions. Real love emerges when you navigate the hard parts with compassion instead of criticism. It's about choosing patience over pride and curiosity over control. When you treat challenges as part of love instead of proof against it, you stop expecting perfection and start valuing persistence. That's when your bond transforms from attraction to connection, from convenience to commitment. The myth of destined love conditions people to believe that relationships should always feel easy. But ease is the reward of effort, not its substitute. It's like building muscle. You earn strength through resistance. Every couple who looks effortlessly happy has gone through seasons of struggle and learning behind the scenes. They've argued, compromised, rebuilt trust, and adapted. What you see as harmony is actually the outcome of repeated practice. The difference is that they didn't interpret difficulty as disaster. Get back. They saw it as data, a signal pointing to what needed to be repaired. In love, discomfort isn't a sign that something's broken. It's an opportunity to build understanding. Back. The problem isn't that relationships are hard. It's that people quit too early. They chase ease without realizing that it only comes after emotional work. The truth is, effort doesn't ruin romance. It refines it back. When you let go of the soulmate myth, you start to appreciate that love is not an accident of timing, but a reflection of intention. You begin to see that what sustains a relationship isn't luck, but leadership, emotional leadership, personal accountability, and consistent communication. Every lasting relationship is a system of micro choices. Back, how you respond under pressure, how you repair after conflict, how you express appreciation when things feel routine. Those choices compound over time to create trust. You don't fall into lasting love. You build it brick by brick through shared responsibility. The most powerful relationships are formed by people who understand that love is a verb, not just a feeling. Feelings fluctuate back, but commitment is what stabilizes them. When both partners commit to growing rather than coasting, love becomes a process of continuous creation rather than passive preservation. Hit back. It's tempting to think of love as something that happens to you, but that thinking keeps you passive. It turns you into a spectator in your own relationship instead of a participant. Back. Real love demands presence. It asks for your attention, your vulnerability, and your effort. It's about actively investing in the connection, even when you don't feel like it. Back. You can't outsource that to destiny or chemistry. You build emotional intimacy by listening when it's hard, by apologizing when you're wrong, by staying engaged when it would be easier to withdraw. Back. Those aren't grand gestures. They're small acts of discipline repeated consistently. Love isn't sustained by grand declarations, but by daily maintenance. Back. The soulmate myth makes people expect fulfillment without effort, but love without work is like a fire without oxygen. It burns bright for a moment and then disappears into ash. Real love also requires emotional maturity, and maturity means taking responsibility for your patterns. The soulmate myth lets people avoid growth by assuming incompatibility instead of introspection. Back. When something feels wrong, they blame the other person instead of looking inward. But every relationship you have will eventually expose your emotional blind spots, your triggers, your fears, your insecurities. Back. Those moments aren't punishments, they're invitations to evolve. If you accept them, you grow. If you resist them, you repeat them. The couples who last are the ones who use friction as feedback. Back. They learn how to regulate their emotions, communicate honestly, and manage conflict without destroying connection. That work isn't glamorous, but it's transformative. It turns relationships into mirrors that reflect your capacity for growth, empathy, and discipline. You don't find the one. You become the one who can love well. Back. There's also a deeper kind of freedom that comes when you realize love is a choice. Because when you understand it's a choice, you stop living in fear of losing it. You no longer see love as fragile or fleeting. Back. You recognize that it endures through commitment, not coincidence. This mindset shifts your focus from possession to participation. You stop asking, how do I keep them? And start asking back, how do I keep growing with them? That's the essence of conscious love. It's built by two people who take ownership of their role in the relationship. They don't wait for magic. They make meaning it back. They show up with intention even when emotion fades. And that's what gives their bond longevity. They're not victims of circumstance. They're creators of connection. It back. They understand that love is not something that happens once. It's something that happens every day. When you build love on choice rather than destiny, you create a different kind of intimacy. Back. It's not built on the thrill of uncertainty, but on the safety of consistency. You know your partner isn't there because fate trapped them. They're there because they choose you again and again. That knowledge creates security, and security creates space for vulnerability. You can be fully yourself because you're not constantly performing to be chosen. In that space, love deepens. Back. It becomes less about maintaining excitement and more about maintaining respect. The connection evolves from infatuation to partnership, from attraction to alignment. And the irony is, back, once you stop chasing, meant to be, love starts feeling even more meaningful. It's not fate that binds you. It's the freedom to keep choosing each other through every season, every storm, every change. Back. This shift in perspective doesn't make love less romantic. It makes it more real. Because the most powerful kind of romance isn't about perfect moments. It's about imperfect people who keep trying. Back. It's two people who wake up every day and decide to keep building something they believe in. It's the daily effort, the quiet apologies, the shared laughter after hard nights that make love extraordinary. Back. Destiny might spark connection, but discipline sustains it. Real love is both art and architecture. It's passion supported by structure. You don't wait for it to stay alive. You feed it, nurture it, and protect it. Back. When both partners commit to doing that, love stops being fragile. It becomes something unshakable, something created, not discovered. The myth of soulmates gives you a story to believe in. Back. But the truth about love gives you the tools to build it. In the end, the most dangerous part of the soulmate myth is that it teaches people to wait instead of work. Back. It tells them that love is something they deserve rather than something they develop. But the beauty of letting go of that myth is that you take your power back. You stop waiting for someone to complete you or for fate to deliver your happiness. You realize that love is a skill, one that you can learn, refine, and master with practice. The more you invest in your own growth back, the better you become at loving and being loved. And that's the real magic, not two halves becoming whole, but two whole people choosing to build something greater together. Because in the end, love isn't written in the stars, it's written in your choices. And the greatest act of love is not finding the one, but choosing every single day to be the one who loves well.